All right, everybody, welcome to the AFC Northcast. We're here this week to talk about NFL Week 12 review, talk about some of the games that happened this weekend. We got some happy campers on the podcast this week, but that's what we're here to talk about. So as far as news goes, nothing really that exciting for us to talk about except for when we start getting into the games, so we're going to kind of skip that for now. Pigskin Pick'ems. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yahoo doesn't call it Pigskin Pick'em. They call it just Football Pick'em, whatever. Anyways, Pro Football Pick'em. Brian at AC, man. Like, fucking still number one. So you got 11 of them correct. So he is the winner this week. As far as we go, I was the winner between the three of us. So
it's convenient that you bring that up the first week of the season that you beat everybody.
That's not true, actually, because it was like 2 weeks ago I beat everybody, but you brought it up first. So, just saying. But
I beat everybody once, which is miraculous since I'm at the absolute bottom of the standings almost at this point.
My level. That being said, also, I played Joey in fantasy football this week and just fucking smeared him. I
mean, 11 points. It's hardly a smearing.
And Russell Wilson put up 9 points. So I'm just saying. But so basically what I'm saying is I'm the best at football, so listen to me. Always and forever.
I guess when your team was supposed to win the Super Bowl and they still have a losing record going into week 12, you have to cling to something.
We got to have something to hang on to, man, week by week. What are you talking about? There's still a chance. They're not out yet.
Dude. Yeah. You cling all you want, Justin. You haven't had anything to cling to in like 15 years. You cling with pride, sir.
They're still in it. They're still in it to win it, all right? They just got to win the rest of the season out, which is going to be really easy, right? Because most of it's just divisional opponents, so, you know.
Hey, man, that was the book on the Browns season was, hey, down the stretch, second half, way easier.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. But let's talk about this week's games. Let's just jump and dive head first right into them. So what do you got going on, Chad?
For the craft beer people out there, this is Julius, which is a pretty famous IPA by a pretty famous IPA brewer out of Massachusetts called Treehouse Brewing Company. So this is a treat. This is what you get for a podcast after a big time win.
Big time win, huh?
I guess the bar for big time wins is been lowered a little bit
in the division.
Yes,
yeah, a little bit.
That is accurate. We'll talk about it.
So, anyways, let's talk first about the Browns against the Dolphins. That's probably the least eventful of the games this week. But yeah, the Browns creamed the Dolphins, 41-28. So, of course. So before the podcast started, Chad was like, yeah, man, you got to be happy with, the Browns winning again against the Dolphins and, they're on their streak, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, I'm coming out of this game not really that excited, not that happy, for a couple of reasons. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the second half stance, I guess, or the second half comeback that the Dolphins started to kind of mount. And this is something that the Browns have just and I even, me and my wife were talking about it. The Browns never come out of the second half powerful. They continue, I don't know, they just get in a slump in the second half. So I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times, right? Good teams can be up at the half, but great teams can make adjustments, right? And the Browns never make adjustments after the half, and they just they lose so many games at halftime. So, or after halftime. So yeah, it started to feel like it was going to be one of those games when the Dolphins put up 2 touchdowns, and I was just sitting there like, fuck, man, this is going to be it. This is how the season ends, just exactly as we all expected, as everyone expected, and just the same as it's been the last couple of years. But they nevertheless did kind of pull through and put up a couple more tutters and win the football game. Sorry, go ahead.
It was incredible. So I was on the road. I don't remember what I was doing. And you were texting. And I saw that they were up big. And then, like, out of nowhere, Justin was like, well, guess the Browns are going to lose this game. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah, it was like 28-3, and then it came to like 24-28 or something like that. I think they spread apart a little bit more after that. But yeah, it was just one of these like, what the fuck? Fitzpatrick just got on his Fitzmagic, and yeah, it was not feeling good. Or it was 18-28, I think is what it was.
Yeah, they were still 2 scores up, and you overreacted a little on that one.
I did overreact a little bit. But I've seen it. I've seen it before. Too many times. Really, so we talked a little bit about it too before the podcast. Is the reason why that kind of happened is because the Browns started to play a little bit of, not a little bit, they started to play heavy prevent. They were basically like, whatever, let them get a couple yards, and then we'll just run the clock out. But this is like the beginning/middle of the third quarter. Way too early to be doing anything even remotely close to this. And it really kind of felt like, you know, a word that we've used a little bit this year, the hubris, right, of the team, like kind of got infused back into itself from early in the season. They got a little bit of just too full of it, like, oh, we've got this and we're gonna win, and nah, man. And that's to the credit of a different team, the Ravens, right? They don't care how far ahead they are. Like, their foot is on your throat for the entirety of all 4 quarters, and they don't give a shit. And that's what the Browns need to do, right?
I'm gonna start arguing against that point hard soon, because, well, we'll talk about it in the Ravens game. But
okay.
I just don't think they have a way of slowing down because their run game is so automatic.
I was just about to say that.
It's like they're not even doing anything fancy. They're they just run the ball, and they just can't help but score touchdowns right now.
Right, but and again, we'll get to this when we get to the Ravens, but they're not like, you know, throwing in Justice Hill for the entire fourth quarter. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, they thrill. They did.
They basically did.
It was 8
but
yards.
Yeah.
And they didn't even run him around the edge. They ran.
But that's
right
when the game is in hand. It's not like.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin, I think we're talking about like third quarter.
Right. This was like the beginning,
early second half. Like, yeah, I get that. It's just hard to delineate what normally indicates, they've gone vanilla and they're just trying to hold their lead, is to get like run on first and second down and get in a shell on offense. But that's what the Ravens do all the time.
Yeah. Do not let us go through this podcast without talking about the Ravens' drive to end the first half, because it encapsulates this whole conversation perfectly. So,
okay.
Listeners, we're going to circle back.
We will circle back. Let's just talk numbers and statistics. Look, Jarvis Landry fucking killed it this game. Like, he was the guy, the go-to. This was statistically, I think, best/second best. I don't know if how you want to categorize it, depending on how you favor yards, catches, or touchdowns. But yeah, man, 76.9% catch rate. Like, this is the shit that we signed him on for, man. Like, this is the stuff that he's here for. 2 touchdowns, 148 yards. It was fantastic. Odell Beckham, on the other hand, had 84 yards, which is still really, really good. He killed it. He also had a touchdown. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything yet from him as far as I didn't watch like his post-game interview or anything. I probably should have, but maybe he finally said that he was happy with his performance or something. Who the fuck knows? Baker Mayfield, 3 passing touchdowns. As far as he goes, this was like clearly his best game that he's had all season long. His best QBR. Now, that being said, so going back to kind of some of the disappointments, the Dolphins' defense is pretty inept, right? So this is something that you would kind of expect. He did have 1 interception, and he should have had 3, right? One of them that was not counted was called back because of a penalty. So, like, the interception occurred, and a player ran in the other direction, right? Like, all that stuff happened, and I already forget what it was. I think it was DPI that ended up calling it back. But it was an interception, right? He threw it. And then another one that he threw just basically fell out of the guy's hands. So I'm honestly still kind of concerned with this. We'll see how it goes and how it progresses. Something I kind of started to talk to myself about a little bit earlier this week. Early this week, was the idea that of the sophomore slump, right? So some quarterbacks kind of start to get this where they have a good first year and they have that second year where they kind of have a little bit of a lull and then they come back, right? So a good example, I think, is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is he had a great first year. Whatever. He had a good first year. He kind of had a lull, and then he started to kind of make a comeback, right? So it's not atypical for quarterbacks to have kind of a slump. I don't know if it's not that big of a slump this year, I guess, but these interceptions it's not good, man. It's not a good look.
The interceptions are definitely a bummer. I would make the case that even though statistically this was his best game, you're obligated to do that against the Dolphins. So
Right.
I still think his best game was against the Steelers. His statistics weren't as strong, but he deftly handled an absolutely dominant front and made it look pretty easy and under control all game.
Right.
So I was impressed by Baker this game, don't get me wrong, but I was impressed by Baker like I was impressed with everything about the Browns offense, which is great. Like, you should be happy about it, just like Joey said when the Ravens played everybody. You know, when you crush teams you're better than, that's great. It's good. You just did what you're supposed to do. The Browns offense like finally looked like I think we all imagined it. They had a really nice balance, run to pass. Everybody got a pretty good amount of targets, skill player wise, that we care about. Kareem Hunt was mixed into the run and the pass game. They had both running backs on the field.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb was strong and breaking tackles. I thought the offensive line, actually, as I watched the game, it felt like they were getting beat a little bit by the edge rushers. But then I looked up the stats, and they only gave up 1 sack. So I must have just noticed a couple pressures that caught my eye. But really, that they did fine. You know, like, yeah, you can nitpick. Like, on Baker's second touchdown, when they showed the replay, Higgins, Hollywood Higgins,
was more open.
He was like as open as you can be
in the NFL,
and be on the field, like in anything in middle school. Like he was ignored. You know, like maybe he doesn't make the perfect read there, but he was also drifting left in the pocket. Would have been a really hard throw. So stuff like that. But honestly, like, can I ask you guys a question about Browns coaching?
Sure.
Because
see if I know it.
We've been fairly critical of the Browns coaching staff this year. We've talked about the team discipline. We've talked about play calling and what the offense looks like. I feel like the Browns score a touchdown on most of their opening drives.
Yes.
I'm not going to look it up. Just not going to bother. But those are scripted plays. Those are design plays that are like the offense as you imagine it. That's the stuff you practice throughout the week. So part of me wants to say, like, dude, if they score a touchdown every week on that stuff, that's good coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But then, is it bad coaching that they can't that they always like are worse after that?
Bad adjustments, man. Yeah, inability to adjust, man. I don't know. Yeah, it is weird though. Like every single game, their first, I would say maybe even first 2 drives. So yeah, in that realm of those scripted plays, man, they look so good. They really do. But then they always just kind of slump after that, and then particularly after halftime, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's part of the curse. But I don't know. It looks like their offense, though, is starting to really put together its identity, which it's funny because I kind of joked about it early on in the season, but it's looking more and more like it's actually a real thing. But having the identity of both running backs on the field at the same time is playing a huge part in a lot of their successful drives. So also shout out to Kareem Hunt, first touchdown as a Brown. So there you go.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt undefeated as a Brown.
So far.
It's a little gimmicky, but
yeah,
I do think that there was a tangible change in the way that the offense has been operating with him. Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, the Steelers will be the first team to get a second crack at this offense with Kareem and have a healthy bit of tape. So
yeah, hopefully they don't break a form or get a formula or something, you know.
I will say to Baker's credit, he did seem to finally get it that if you are looking at either OBJ or Jarvis, the moment they make a cut, they're open by like multiple steps. every time if it's man coverage. And he finally seemed to exploit that this game like really effectively. So I don't know if maybe the timing's just getting better or maybe the coverages that the Dolphins were doing made it a little easier because they weren't bracketing with multiple players as much. But I mean, those guys, like, they showed it on replays a couple times. Like, they make cuts and they're just open by 2 or 3 steps, like
right.
every time. So that was nice. I think that was a good realization. And, you know, any team that I cheer for against them hopefully saw that on tape and doesn't try to do silly man coverage schemes without assistance because they got it figured out.
And then last but certainly not least, Joe Schobert. 2 more interceptions this game. Just saying, he is now tied for 3rd in the NFL for number of interceptions. So, actually, they even started talking about it during the game that he's having a Pro Bowl season. So, we'll see. The thing that worries me is that his contract is up at the end of the year. And, man, I just really hope that he sticks around and the Browns figure out how to pay him. One of those 2 things, you know? So, I don't know. What I mean by if he sticks around is in like as a desire kind of a thing, right? Because if, you know, the fucking Patriots called him up or something like that, it's one of those things where it's like, well, do you want a Super Bowl? You know, obviously things are changing in the NFL right now, but I hope that he wants to stay in Cleveland is what I'm trying to say, and then also that the Browns are willing and able to pay him.
I hope that it takes a long time because I want to make like 1,000 jokes about how the Bengals are going to try and sign him.
You would be remiss.
Yeah, they won't. They don't do big free agents, but I can still make the jokes.
You know, it's so weird too because, again, you know, for whatever reason, and I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm so locked in on the team, but he's not a household name. So it would be it would be weird to call him a big free agent, even though he is kind of one of, like, you know, definitely a top 5 linebacker right now in the NFL. So I don't know. It's weird. But let's move on. Since we were talking about Bengals, let's talk about Bengals bungling.
We had such a game. Such a game. Let me just start out before I lose track because there's so much to talk about in terms of individual plays, individual playmakers. This is a star-studded game. Star-studded game. We talked about it in the preview podcast. A lot of players to keep an eye on for Pro Bowls and a lot of awards.
SBs.
16-10 was your final score. Pittsburgh, barn burner. This game, question for you guys. Did in one game we kill 2 quarterback careers?
Yes.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes. I think so.
So we found out, news break, this would have been news, but it's too pertinent to how bad the offenses were in this game, that the Bengals are now benching Ryan Finley. They're going back to Andy Dalton. And the Steelers, at least for this week, are sticking with Duck Hodges.
Quack, quack.
Who came in after the first half and replaced Mason Rudolph. And Tomlin was a little bit coy in the post-game press conference. But after a couple more days of thinking about it and ruminating, he came back in his Tuesday press conference and they said, Mike, why are you going with Devlin Hodges? What made you decide to do this? And he said, and I quote, he has not killed us. So
that's kind of funny.
It's okay to have extraordinary boosts of confidence now, Steelers Nation, because that's the type of pep talk that we love, right? We love that. I'm so fired up. We're going to win all our games now because this guy's going to be a star at not killing us.
So, as far as Ryan Finley goes, Johnny Funbuns, John Lunchik said, NC State QBs always resurface as saviors down the road. Finley is a legit talent. So here's something I was going to say a second ago is that, you're mocking the offensive play, but the Pittsburgh defense is no joke. So the fact that he put up 10 points as basically a backup quarterback with a very damaged offense and a completely inept offensive line, is it really that bad?
Yeah, you were watching the Browns game, right? So
yeah.
The 10 points happened like this. Tyler Boyd was temporarily replaced by an animatronic robot. crazy catch where he pinned the ball on his shoulder while being interfered with.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the next play, Zach Taylor did some of the best coaching he's done all year and said,
give it to him again.
Effing ball to Tyler Boyd under every circumstance. And Tyler Boyd made Joe Hayden look like an idiot and jumped over him and caught a touchdown. It was 2 plays. It was all Tyler Boyd. And that's it. That's it. Finley's not good. He's just not.
From what I understand, the big knock on Finley, and I mean, it's very early. He's a rookie quarterback. It's like his second, right, start or third start. But it's arm strength is like one of the big stories about why won't Ryan Finley flourish in the NFL? And so that's definitely something that's a concern. John also asked if the impetus for Dalton's return is to try to get AJ back on the field.
I would say, like, not in so many words, but, and I don't tweet, so I don't have personal viewing of these things, but the Bengals players, like, universally applauded this decision. So I think you've got a first-year coach, a young coach in Zach Taylor, who has a beat on the locker room, and he knows what's happening. And I think he doesn't want to lose his job. And I think part of that is that you need your players to play hard and to believe in you, and they want Dalton. So even if Finley's a rookie and he's not that good, but there's room for growth, Zach Taylor needs the players to believe in him now. So he's bringing Dalton back to show them that he's going to try and help them put their best foot forward. So I think that's a lot of it. And that's I heard that per the Bengals Locked On podcast, because they track all the Bengals tweeting and whatnot. But the players are for this.
You know, I almost wonder if the original decision was kind of something that we talk about with new head coaches coming in, right? Like, they want their guy that they can install and mentor and develop, right? And maybe Zach Taylor thought, well, I can take this as my guy, whereas Andy Dalton just kind of is. I don't know. It's just something I kind of thought about real quick.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the rationale, obviously, we talked about it as it happened. There was gaps in it, right?
Right.
Like, they didn't try and trade Andy Dalton. They didn't really, like, commit to it in a way that made sense in terms of team building.
It was on Andy Dalton's birthday.
Yeah, it just wasn't handled in, like, a very professional way. So either Zach Taylor, I mean, he's a first-time head coach. He was, like, a quarterback's coach before this. Like, he doesn't know how to, like, wheel and deal with the front office people, and there's going to be stuff that we don't see that, you know, we can only tell is happening because of the ripples down the line that we can see, like Andy Dalton getting told that he's benched on his birthday. That's like a result of a lack of communication at the top, and then it trickles down in a non-elegant way. So yeah, I mean, Finley, yeah, maybe he'll be kind of good someday, but it won't be anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. I don't know. Now you also have to kind of ask yourself too, do the Bengals start to try to make a move out of the first round, or the number 1 pick rather? It's kind of a weird thing to think about, you know, because if they're going to put Dalton in, it's presumably because they want to win, right? They want to win some football games. And, you know, are they gunning for a quarterback, you know, in the draft, or are they still believing in Andy Dalton? It's a really weird spot where the Bengals are right now.
They're 2 games up for the first pick, so I think it might be their mindset that they can win a couple of games
yeah, they're
and still
allowed
get
to.
It. Like, I don't know. I don't know that answer, but I feel like in my mind they want to have the number 1 pick.
But I mean, are they gunning for a quarterback though? I really wonder. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
You never know.
Having that pick is of great value.
That's true.
Whether you take it or not, you know, you could trade back and end up with 2 first-round picks, or however it works out. Especially if, you know, Tua's still hurt, if he like misses the combine or something like that, and Burrow is like above and beyond the guy as far as quarterbacks go. Like, that's a coveted spot to be able to know that if you want Burrow, you can take him right there.
Or you
No
can
one
trade
else
it.
in the draft could say that for sure.
You can trade down to number 2 or number 3, get the guy that you want if you're not looking for a quarterback. You know, the Dolphins the Dolphins also have a division win too, so the Bengals could win 2 games as long as it's not both against a division.
Yeah, I don't know the tiebreakers, but I do know that they're at least the 2 games up, and so we'll see. I mean, I guess to circle back, if you guys want, to the game itself. So basically, Finley had the 1 drive, right? So the game finished 16-10. Their 1 touchdown drive was basically 2 big plays to Tyler Boyd, and that's it. We didn't talk a lot about the players that were going to be in this game for the Steelers because we didn't really know who was going to be active. And 2 of their signings last Saturday didn't get a ton of snaps, but they did make an immediate impact. They signed a running back named Kareth White. He was number 40, and if you weren't paying attention, you might not have even noticed he was there because most of his snaps were in the first quarter, but he ran 3 times for 43 yards in the first quarter. He was a big part of the reason that the running game was successful early in the game. And he only had 7 snaps in the game, and he ended up with, I don't have the stats after the first quarter, but he basically ended up with 40 or 50 yards carrying on 7 snaps. And they signed a receiver, Deion Kane, who I mentioned. He was number 17, and on his first ever target for the Steelers, he did what Johnny Holton couldn't do for 2 months. He caught a deep pass. He did it, and it was hard. He jumped over a guy, and he made a great play. And he only played 10 snaps, but he had that big catch. It was a 35-yard catch. It led to a field goal, which in this game meant a lot because it was a pretty low-scoring game. And he also drew a pass interference later. So Deion Kane, you probably won't do a whole lot besides running straight lines fast, but he's an upgrade in our players who run straight lines fast department that we're starting up in Pittsburgh. So keep an eye on number 17 going forward. I promised you guys 11 sacks. I want to get to that. I started a tracker immediately because I thought we had a real chance of getting there. Spoiler alert, we didn't get there. There was only 4 sacks, which for the record is a good game. But I just want to briefly talk about the power of those sacks. One of them came, I think, on their first possession. Watt strip sack. That's what he does now. He crushes a quarterback and he takes the ball while he's doing it. The Bengals recovered, but it portended things to come. Immediate strip sack. Then, on a 3rd and 12, big down, Cam Hayward, another star Steeler defensive player, got in, and he made a sack to end a drive. I can't remember if this was the end of the first half or the beginning of the second, but the Bengals were way backed up. They're on like their own 8-yard line. Mark Barron on a blitz, this close. For people that aren't watching the video, my fingers are so close together right now to a safety, almost safety, Finley on a great blitz and sack. And it wasn't a safety. I'm not complaining, but it was very close. It was a very good defensive play at a key moment, got him way backed up. And then in a 1-score game with it all on the line, Bud Dupree, last Bengals possession, comes in, strip sack, which the Steelers did recover. So 4 big momentous sacks. These weren't like 1st and 10 plays on the 40-yard line and then track of what was going on. These were moments that mattered in the game, and the Steelers stepped up, did what they were supposed to do, and it was all the players that, except for Mark Barron, because he's not that good usually, but it was the players that you count on. So that was big. I was pretty pleased with the Steelers' defense, even though they didn't come up with my number. I know that they'll get it this week when I make my promises. It might not be 11, might be 12. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But I was pleased. I was pleased with the defense, how they played. They also made basically the game-saving play. It was the two players I've loved talking about most. Devin Bush, who we haven't brought up in a while. He got matched up in Steelers fashion against the Bengals' best wide receiver. You got a linebacker. I thought we were over that, but we're not. We're not. And addiction is a lifelong disease. And that's what we learned this week. We're addicted to this middle linebacker on the team's best receiver stuff. So we're just going to have to, every day is a new day. We're just going to
one day at a time.
Yep, one day at a time. So Devin Bush got matched up against Tyler Boyd. He got made to look the fool. But you know what he did? He just didn't quit. He has no quit in him. He chased that sucker down, and on the 5-yard line, he punched that ball. He punched it. Tyler Boyd lost it. And then Minka, he's like a ballerina warrior. And he was just right on the sideline, but he scooped that ball up and he ran it all the way back to midfield without going out of bounds and basically saved the game because the Steelers were up 13-10 at that point. And if the Bengals scored a touchdown based on what we had watched, they were going to win. It was going to be really bad. I was going to be very sad. I was not going to be drinking Julius. I was going to be drinking oil.
Tears.
Tears, yeah. Yeah.
So it was
actually, you were going to be drinking tears from the guy that was going to get off the roof because he was just so happy to get off that fucking roof.
So, the Bengals offense isn't that good. So a lot of this is probably to be expected from an elite defense, but you got to make the play. And then in a few clutch moments, they really did step up and make it. So I was pleased to see that because we're going to need that going forward in order to be competitive against better teams.
Yeah. Somebody get Keith Butler, a chip to carry in his pocket.
Yeah, it's that was a mess in terms of coverage, but they made the moves that they needed to make. The running game actually statistically was okay. Benny Snell, rookie, 4th round pick if I'm not remembering correctly. He ended up with 21 carries for 98 yards. Pretty quiet. I don't think the Steelers' running game looked particularly good if you weren't keeping track of the stats all game. But in the fourth quarter, they did pick it up, and on the drive that they scored their last field goal, it was pretty Benny Snell heavy. So I think without really close track, that's when a big chunk of those yards came because he did. I did note that the drive for that last field goal to make it 16-10, the power running game really got going, and Benny Snell helped the Steelers milk a lot of clock and get down there and score some points. So.
Before we move too far from the Steelers' defensive side of the ball, Johnny Fun Buns asked if the Steelers' D is going to be good for years to come like they have been. What do you think?
I'd say yes because they have been, and a lot of player turnover has occurred. But there's some old hats on this team. Cam Hayward's getting old. He's going to probably get a new contract, which will maybe be the rest of his career. If Tuitt doesn't stay healthy next year, they might lose a bit of their potency on the front because Javon Hargrave, who's playing a lot of valuable snaps, is going to be a free agent and more than likely won't stay a Steeler. And also Bud Dupree is on the 5th year of his rookie deal, which means he is like an unrestricted free agent. So unless they sign him to the franchise tag and then probably like a really big deal, he's been awesome. He's going to make like $15 million a year. You could be losing 2 players on your front 7 that have been a big deal this year. But the secondary should stay solid, which for the first time in many years is something that Steeler fans can actually kind of feel good about. You kind of like your secondary. So,
yeah, I don't know how much it's changed since Tuitt got hurt. But I know at one point this year, the Steelers starting defense, 10 out of 11 guys were first-round draft picks, which is insane. That's crazy. When and I was like, well, there's no way that's right. And then you start going through, the guys up front are all studs, but then you go through like the backfield, and it's like, well, Joe Hayden and Terrell Edmonds was a really high pick, and now they have Minka back there. It's like, first-round picks everywhere.
Yeah, it's high. They have a lot of high picks. Tyson Alualu is not a starter, but he plays a lot of snaps, and he was a first-round pick. So, yeah, they have a lot. I don't know if he's going to be on the team next year. But, yeah, you'd think that Devin Bush will get better at that middle linebacker position. TJ Watt's not going anywhere. So I think you should be excited about the defense, even if there might be some player change. But if you're paying close attention, just enjoy Javon Hargrave, number 79, and Bud Dupree, number 48, coming off the edge this year, because this could be the end of their run in particular. So good time to enjoy them.
All right. Any quick thoughts on Duck?
Yeah, like so Duck versus Mason. Like what are your thoughts on that? Who do you think gives the team the best chance to win for the rest of the season? Because I'm not sure about moving forward with either of them. But for the rest of the season, who do you think gives you the best chance to win?
I feel like woefully unprepared to talk about that because I don't see them practice.
Right.
But I know that the Steelers have, I guess, in terms of like raw quarterback ability to make the throws and willingness to do it in his short time with the team, Duck Devlin Hodges has shown more aggressiveness without having it be to the point of catastrophe than Mason Rudolph had shown. But I honestly wouldn't have subbed Mason Rudolph out of this game. Like, I was prepared to just watch Mason Rudolph for the rest of this year and let the ship go where it went. So I was pretty surprised that Duck came in. And honestly, did he play better than Mason Rudolph? He was like 5 for 11 for 120 yards maybe.
118,
and basically all of that was his second play or whatever when he threw a... Frankly, James Washington was pretty open. Now, it was a crossing route over the deep middle, so Mason has missed those throws. But he threw it well. And then, if you want to talk about a player, let's talk about James Washington taking BJ Webb or whatever his name is. He doesn't get a first name. He just pushed him in the face, and he fell over like a small child.
Did this number?
I almost felt bad. I almost felt bad, but I didn't. I loved it. I loved every second of it, and then I watched it like 10 times because it was the best. So I don't know. Like, it's going to be a bit of a mess. I mean, like, this team beat the worst team in the NFL, which is worse than what was supposed to be the worst team in NFL like history somehow by 2 games in the Dolphins, by 6 points in what frankly was a struggle. And that's with both of them playing half of a football game. So, I just hope that they make a clear decision and do it professionally, because I think the worst thing that happens with quarterbacks, besides switching offensive coordinators all the time, is like constantly looking over their shoulder. Like, you have to feel like you can play aggressively and play to win. So I would hate to see either one of their opportunities undercut by the feeling that they had one quarter to like show what they were going to do. And maybe that's why Mason isn't playing this week. Maybe they're just giving him a week and then they're going to let him practice and sort it out after the Browns game. But with all the stuff that happened with the Browns and the way Mason looked, and apparently I didn't really notice this, but apparently he was kind of rattled all throughout this game. He was, getting up kind of looking for a fight. The Bengals podcast people talked about it. The Steelers Depot people that I listened to talked about it. Like, he just wasn't mentally there yet. So, maybe it just needs a week to get past this Brown stuff and move on. But I don't know. Duck was great. So I'm excited. Well, irrationally.
Apparently,
Duck's got that swag.
He's got swag. Apparently
having a 45% completion rate can also yield you a 115 QBR. But, so speaking of good QBRs, let's talk about the Ravens. Ravens and the Rams in the primetime Monday Night Football game, man. Holy shit.
Hotly contested.
Yeah.
Holy shit is right. This game was close for like 7 minutes of game time. And then the Ravens scored their second touchdown after consecutive 3-and-outs to start the game by the Rams. And it became very clear all of a sudden that these two teams were on very different trajectories. Lamar Jackson had as many touchdowns as incompletions. 1/3 of his completions were for touchdowns, which is an even more insane stat. You hear the like, oh, the guy didn't have many incompletions and as many touchdowns things. But he completed 15 passes and 5 of them were for touchdowns. The Ravens really just dominated. They double teamed Aaron Donald on a serial basis. He was quiet. Really, the whole Rams defensive front was quiet. I think part of that is what being in the run mindset does for your offensive line. It makes them the aggressor in the trenches and really allows the offensive line to kind of get on a roll. But also in the pass game, it looked like the Rams. So we've seen teams be really aggressive with Lamar on the edges and get burned. I thought, especially on design pass plays, that the Rams did a pretty good job of containing Lamar. There were a lot of times where he tried to escape, whether it up the middle or out of the sides, and was contained and took some hits. But the edge guys were very, very cautious. There was one sack by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Ibukum.
He was good. He looked fast. He was one of the few people
great.
that looked.
And it was on a pass play, and I wasn't even really watching him, and they showed the replay, and he pretty much just stood in front of Stanley until Lamar tried to escape and made the tackle. So they took a more passive approach to containing Lamar, to rushing the passer, I guess. And I think it paid off for them as far as that aspect goes, but they just simply couldn't hang with the run game, and that allowed the Ravens to pass by convenience, and that is a recipe for disaster for a defense. And then defensively, I mean, I thought the Rams were running the ball effectively. They just couldn't do it for very long because they were chasing points.
I even thought they actually threw the ball pretty effectively. Like when Goff, when his reads were making sense, he was throwing accurately. I thought receivers were getting open enough, although the Rams definitely did not allow yards after the catch, or the Ravens defensive backs, which it's big when you're playing against Cooks, Woods, and Cooper Kupp. I don't even have many notes about the Ravens defense because it was so embarrassing. Like, this game was so embarrassing. Yeah. Is this the way it's going to be for, like, everybody? This is crazy stuff. I turned on the game because I don't know how to read. And so I thought it started at 8:30, and the Ravens were already winning 7-0. And then they scored again, and I wrote down, I don't even know what's happening. Like, I have no feel for this game, and it's already over. Like, if this were a Steeler game, it would be over. It would finish 14-6. Like, that was it. And then I finally started to, like, get a bead on it. And if we can we talk about this 2-minute drill?
Yeah.
The 2-minute. Okay, so the Ravens are up, I think, 21-3, and they get the ball back with 2 minutes left. Might even be less. Like, might be like 1:45.
Yeah.
I think they had 2 timeouts. I'm not going to have the exact series of plays down here, but they basically run the ball. They run the ball on first down. They run the ball on second down. They mix in 3 total pass plays in this drive. They're not down the field. They're not like, okay, here's where we pick up yards. They're like swing passes into the flat. Nothing fancy.
I think one of them was like over the middle to Andrews, and he got out of bounds.
Yeah. Just like simple stuff. It wasn't deep over the middle. It was just like your regular, maybe 7-yard, whatever. And then they ran the ball a couple more times. They didn't rush up to the line of scrimmage. They didn't really have to because they were running the ball for like 7 yards a carry. All of a sudden, there's like 20 seconds left. They're on the 8-yard line or whatever. And then there's like Lamar Jackson just throws a skinny post to whoever. And it's like a touchdown. They didn't do anything. They didn't even call all their timeouts, I don't think, on this drive. But in 1 minute and 40 seconds, They just ran the ball. Like, they did what any other team would do to run out the half because they're up by 3 scores, but they just like accidentally scored a touchdown. I couldn't believe it.
Another good illustration of the effectiveness of the run game is the Rams. It might have been a sack that the Rams made on first down, and so the Ravens were facing a second and greater than 10, and Booger said he was talking about the advantage to the Rams defense and said, so second and long takes away the threat of the run. And then he paused for like a beat and he said, even though they still may run it. And that's the hard part of defending the Ravens. They ran it at one point early in the game on like a 3rd and 12, and Ingram picked up 11 yards. And it wasn't like a typical draw play type of like concession type of run that teams do a lot of times on 3rd and long. Like, it was a straight up run play. It's just so effective. It's so good.
I have a riddle that relates to this also. How do you stop a team that can run for a first down on 1st and 18? The Ravens took a holding penalty, got 1st and 18, and then they just ran the ball again and ran for a first down. I was like, what the F? Dude, this is crazy. Like, and it was Ingram. It was not Lamar Jackson. It wasn't Super Freak, like it was just Ingram, who's great. He's like definitely an above average back, maybe a Pro Bowl back this year. Like, 1st and 18, you can't tackle this fucking dude after 10 yards. Are you kidding me? Where is everybody?
And he was running with such an edge. He had 15 carries for 111 yards. That's almost 7.5 yards a carry.
It's crazy.
And that offense, if you can't stop that, you're just not going to stop this offense.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the schedules and trying to look at statistics and stuff, like up ahead and everything. And so obviously it looks pretty clear that the team to beat the Ravens is the team that's most capable of stopping the run, right? Even if you look earlier this season, the way that the Browns beat the Ravens earlier this season is because they were able to stop the run. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that, but that's, I think, is the best way to encapsulate it, right? But a lot of the teams moving forward, even the 49ers that the Ravens have coming up, big game, they're 19th in rushing defense or run defense, right? So, man, it's tough. It's gonna be tough. Even if you look at a lot of the teams that are in playoff contention, that you might be worried about. Let's just say AFC wise, run defense. The Patriots are number 9, and we're not gonna talk about that. The Bills are 14. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's tough, man. It's gonna be tough.
While we're talking about defensive rush ratings, I talked about what the Ravens did last week to Houston's rating. They were number 3 in rush defense in the league and ended the week 13th in the league.
Yeah.
The Rams came in 5th and ended the week 16th.
Yeah. So, there was a stat in the first half. They're like, the Rams give up about 86 yards a game rushing.
Yeah.
It was in the second quarter this came up. And they're like, the Ravens are currently at 173.
What allows that to happen?
And so Justin was talking about, well, the key is to stop the run against the Ravens. The Browns allowed 173 rush yards to the Ravens in their victory. But that's less than the Ravens' season average. The Ravens ran for 285 yards last night against the number 5 rush defense in the league.
Yeah, it's
wild, man. It's definitely bonkers. But so something else I was looking at too, because you were talking about 1/3 of the completed passes by Lamar Jackson were touchdowns, which is true. There were 15 attempts and 5 of them were touchdowns. I can't find the total number of run plays in the game or whatever, but just totaling up Ingram, Edwards, Hill, and Lamar Jackson, looks like there are 45 runs and only 20 pass attempts. That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah. It looked like RG3 had 3 rushes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are his kneels. maybe.
Yeah.
3 rushes for -3 yards.
Yeah, probably. So it looks like, and the even crazier thing about that too is that out of, I guess if you put all those numbers together, that's about 65 plays, let's say. Obviously, there were probably more than that, but in 65 plays, they scored 45 points. Like, that's a commanding offense, right? That's just able to basically bend you at its will.
Well, every time they touched the ball, it was a sustained drive.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't turn it over. They didn't punt. It was touchdowns or the end of the half until RG3 came in, and then it was field goals.
No, that's not even accurate. Lamar Jackson was on the field for 6 offensive drives. That's 42 of their 45 points.
Yeah.
They scored 6 touchdowns on his 6 drives, 5 passing and 1 rushing to whoever. Dude.
Yeah. This team is almost like the Chiefs were last year, except instead of passing, with rushing.
Inverted.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of with passing, it's with rushing. And a defense that is capable and has hot flashes. The good hot flashes.
Well,
not the
so
bad
the thing with this defense is it's perfect the way that they're paired with this offense, the way that the offense is scoring, because this defense's big vulnerability is the run game. And we saw with the Ravens' last loss, which was the Browns, when you're able to play with a lead on the Ravens and you're able to continue running the ball, they're vulnerable. Gurley had a fine night last night when he had a chance. He only had 6 carries because before they fucking blinked, they ran 6 offensive plays and were down 14-0. What are you gonna do?
Right.
I should also take this moment to say that I've been talking about how if you can throw off his back foot and do some stuff like that, he could be not very good. It's time to just acknowledge that he hasn't done that in weeks.
Yeah.
It's been weeks. Now, I would make the case that he hasn't had to make challenging throws. But look, if you don't have to make challenging throws over the course of a month and a half, you might just have a really good offense and you might never have to do it. A realistic possibility at this point.
Yeah.
I still stick to my goals when I'm defending Lamar about what I want. But it's very realistic at this point that it's impossible. I don't know. You said it. The Rams' pass rush was pretty disciplined. I thought that Ngakwe, or I don't know his name.
Ibukum.
Ngukum. Don't make me say it again. I thought he looked fast and was good. He definitely had one of the 2 sacks on Lamar. Dante Fowler was good. I think he had the other one, and he definitely pushed Lamar out of bounds on a nice play that kept him from gaining. And like you said, there was a couple big holes, and of course Lamar ran for 35 yards both times. But for the most part, they kind of stayed gelled together. But he still didn't really drift back.
Yeah.
So he's making quicker decisions. I did start to notice that he reads the zone defense really well, but almost exclusively throws to the middle of the field. I feel like I'd want to push those throws to the sideline and see what he's doing over there, because I feel like that's when he maybe does some of his overthrowing, throwing those high passes. But it's just you're at this point trying to make such a specific thing to happen against an athlete that's so transcendent and an offensive coordinator that's very good, that the odds of you getting what you want to happen are so far 0.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for the Browns. But it doesn't matter because the Browns stink. They're not going to make the playoffs.
But Steelers are, right?
Maybe.
They're bound.
Well, next week, could really...
It could.
It's not necessarily a must-win for the Steelers, but it absolutely is for the Browns if they have playoff aspirations at all.
If they do. So, actually, is I forget his name, but is your boy still down for the double or nothing for 8 and 8? I honestly, like, I meant to ask that 2 weeks ago. Like, this is not even a joke. I meant to ask that 2 weeks ago, but I mean, it doesn't matter because it's all fucking hearsay at this point. But if he's down, I'll still take it.
I can ask him now that you've won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Take it.
No. What was I gonna say?
He might. He's a gambling guy.
Again, I also like I like swear on my fucking father's grave. Like I thought it was 8-8 to begin with, but I'll take the 9-7. I'll take it.
We'll take it.
I was
it's on the internet. Like if we have to look it up, we can. It's like,
it doesn't matter. It's all about how I interpret my reality, right? It's all about my perception. But anyways, I was actually looking. Whatever. Let's not get deep into the Brown schedule and stuff. You guys have anything else you want to talk about the Ravens game?
Dude, they're just really, really good. Like, at this point, like, we have to really start considering the fact that this is, like, a real...
We have to really get Joey's hopes up so it just fucking crushes his soul so much when they lose, like, round 1 of the playoffs or something like that, you know?
Look, that will be...
They're not going to be playing round 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Round 2, whatever.
Whatever their first game is.
Yeah, whatever their first game is.
That would be great and hilarious, and I know that Justin and I would really enjoy Sad Joey.
Watching the disparity. It's the happy sack.
But the other thing is, like, if you look at the salary cap and how this stuff all works, like, Joey's quarterback is about to make, like, $1 trillion.
All the money.
In 3 years. He's going to take 94% of the salary cap, and the Ravens are going to be the Mets of football. So, like...
Depends. Yeah.
The reality is, if he's this good now, you need to win now. Like, maybe at the beginning of the year, you were maybe he does a little developing. Maybe we'll get a little development. You know what? You got it. So now it's time to win. Like, your defense is awesome. You have stars across the board that you might not be able to keep all of. Like, the defense is, for the record, defense is getting better every week. We don't talk about that because they score 1,000 points. This defense is getting better every single week. That, like, they might be an elite defense in 2 more weeks. Like, they might be right now. Marcus Peters never has to tackle anybody, but if he has an interception every game, it doesn't really matter.
Oh,
like, I know
we
got to
talk
about.
You.
Oh,
no, it's okay. I'll save it.
Yeah, save it until I'm done flattering your team. Their defense is getting. It's like, at this point, I'd say very good. Very good. So this is a great team. I think I think it's time to start thinking, like, we want to win the Super Bowl. Like, who is better than you 6 times out of 10 games? Like, you should just be. It's time. It's time to change those expectations.
I agree. I said it last week. I was asked anything short of a Super Bowl appearance is a failure on the season. We'll find out a lot next week against the Niners. I think they're considered the class of the NFC from what they've shown. They're the only defense anymore that I'm even worried about, and we'll see next week how it gets handled.
If
losing Matt Skura for the season is an interesting development, if nothing else. So bad timing to lose your starting center, but
I'd still make the case that the Steelers' defense probably is the hardest one, but their offense is so bad that you just don't even have to care. Like, you can be like, okay, we'll just score 22 points instead of 45, and then you can have the 6 that you get.
My last crazy stat from the game, the Ravens drive at the very end of the third quarter. The game was already out of hand at this point, but if it wasn't out of hand, it's your classic put the game away. It was Lamar's last drive. 17 plays, 78 yards, 9 minutes off the clock. It's like, what are you going to do? When it's the same thing they did to the Pats. Like, even if you're only down 2 scores and you're trying to get back in a game, and then they do this, and even if they just get a field goal there, like, you're fucked.
And they still scored 45 points, which we should credit RG3 for his contribution. He did lead a field goal drive.
Yeah, and he doesn't turn the ball over. Except last week. He threw an interception last week.
So, maybe it's because I'm sitting over here playing 4D chess while y'all are just playing fucking checkers of some sort.
Tell me how the Browns are playing the long game.
Yeah, no. But losing to the 49ers might be the smartest thing that the Ravens could do next week.
No, you never lose on purpose.
To reholster everyone's expectations and then just catch them right off guard again and just fucking start stomping people's throats.
I mean, it sounds like you are me last week.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But anything else about the Ravens?
Yeah. So I want to know why Jalen Ramsey and Marcus Peters were squawking at each other after the game.
Because they both like to run their mouths. And Jalen Ramsey, more than any other player in the league, loves to be held back. Because I'll tell you a little secret. Jalen Ramsey, he's just like Mason Rudolph. He's entitled and he's soft.
SAWF.
Dude, I don't think Mason Rudolph
soft.
Dude, Mason Rudolph got clubbed in the head and kept coming.
True.
Yeah, and then threw his arms up like he fucking didn't do anything wrong, right? You see what this guy did to me?
Well, we're not talking about Mason Rudolph.
Right.
Iron Chin.
We're talking about Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Who wants to pick fights with everybody with his helmet on and wants to go at everybody. He's just butthurt because he loves to talk shit. And he tried to talk shit to Hollywood Brown all game long, and all Hollywood Brown ever did was get separation and make catches.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever. Jalen Ramsey wants to bow up on Hollywood Brown because he weighs 20 pounds more than him. Like, whatever, man. Get out of here. You're getting your shit rocked on national television.
Gary Thomas said Miles Boykin had a beautiful catch from RG3. Just saying.
He did. Maybe not a catch, but
that
he also
basically means he's got the second train that John Brown took right out of town. If you don't have chemistry with Lamar, then you can go play for someone else and be good.
Gary also wants to know what you were about to say, Joey. When you almost interrupted Chad a minute ago, but then I interrupted you interrupting.
Well, are we ready for Players of the Week? Because that's where that leads me.
Oh, geez.
Sure.
All right. Well, I will take the initiative to start with AFC North Defensive Player of the Week. And I'm going to nominate the Ravens' leading tackler in a blowout win in Los Angeles, Marcus Peters. 6 tackles, made a beautiful one-handed catch in a revenge game against the team that traded him away 5 weeks ago. The only person there that had a reasonable excuse to be running his mouth at everybody out there on Sunday, Monday, whatever day it was. This win was for Marcus Peters, man. He was out there having a blast, talking all that shit to Jalen Ramsey on the sideline right next to him.
Marcus
awesome.
Peters gently leads people out of bounds, like when you help an old lady with her groceries up to her apartment or across the street, or he slowly spins them to the ground, kind of like the way that I rock my baby to sleep over 15 minutes slowly. Like, Marcus Peters doesn't tackle.
Stats is stats.
Yeah, he got 6 people's knees to the ground by asking nicely. Good domination. He did make a great interception. I like the way he came off his man. The replay was good. It really made sure.
He's a very, very good zone defender. He is.
So I'm not even sure that was zone. It was just a mark.
He just decided to play it like zone.
Honestly, I think so.
So
that's good.
I'm gonna take the next nomination, and I'm just gonna keep nominating Joe Schobert until he fucking wins, man. It just is what it is at this point. He's gonna have to win eventually. Huh?
Didn't he win last week?
He did not. No, Judon won. It was 54 to something. It was close.
So lame.
But I know it's ridiculous. But anyways, five total tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 deflected passes, and he did it all. 5. He did it all only on 89% of the defensive snaps, all right? That's the lowest percentage of defensive snaps he's had all year. So,
And that's why he's the player of the week, because he took so many plays off?
because he did so much in so few plays.
Was he tired?
Tired of fucking whipping that ass. He's like, I got to get everybody else fed too, man. Everybody else got to eat. So he's selfless. That's what it was. He's not only the player of the week, but he is also selfless. A teammate, a team player.
Okay.
All right, Chad, it's your turn to tell us how one of these Steelers defenders shined bright like a diamond against Ryan Finley and deserves to be the defensive player of the week.
This is tricky because, A, your players are fine nominations and they're very good, talented football players. However, your teams both won by like 38 points. So the defensive struggle, the moment wasn't there. Now, my team played the worst team in the NFL. But guess what? Our offense is like the worst in the NFL. So it's kind of an even match.
Yeah.
You know what? When it came down to it, when the game was tight, when the deciding moments were happening, who was there? Who was there to turn the tide of the game? Was Marcus Peters there? Was Marcus Peters there when it was 28-3 and he made a fancy pants catch? And it was such a big deal. Was Joe Schobert there when they were up by 20 and someone tipped a pass and it basketed right into him when he wasn't even in close coverage? Was that a game-changing moment? I don't even remember those plays. What I do remember is Devin Bush punching that ball out of Tyler Boyd's hand and Minka Fitzpatrick coming up and picking it up and running it back to half field. So I'm co-nominating Devin Bush, who's responsible now for 8 turnovers this year, and Minka Fitzpatrick, who's also responsible for 1 million turnovers this year, for saving the Steelers' season. What did your guys do? Oh, did they accumulate a stat?
Saved the Browns season?
No, the Browns season was saved by Jarvis Landry. Devin Bush and Minka Fitzpatrick saved the Steelers season. That's a stat.
Saved seasons 1. All right, let's talk about offensive players of the week. Joey, what you got?
I mean, yeah, the Lamar Jackson Invitational. Seth Roberts, one of the Ravens wide receivers, started calling Lamar Freaky L as a nickname. And I think I kind of like it, so I'm gonna nominate Freaky L. 15 for 20 for 100 something yards, 90 more rushing, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions again. He's awesome. They should put every Ravens game on Monday Night Football for the rest of the year, so the whole nation.
Why? They'd all be boring.
Watch Lamar Jackson because he's fun.
You should go next, Justin.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, but I'm gonna nominate Jarvis
Mason.
Yeah, I'm gonna nominate Mason Rudolph. Yeah. No, I'm gonna nominate Jarvis Landry. I wanted to nominate Nick Chubb, but I mean, it's pretty fucking clear, right? But 13 targets, 10 receptions, 148 yards. It's pretty fucking crazy. 2 touchdowns. Jarvis had an outstanding game. So, yeah, man. He is quickly becoming like the cornerstone, and he's like replacing that spot, I guess, that Higgins was as like this like safety valve of just like he's reliable and he's gonna catch it. It's almost like Baker Mayfield figured out that Jarvis Landry has like the record for catches, so but I don't know.
Inspired. A lot of accumulated statistics, a lot of accumulated records, a lot of good stuff there. Our polls only get 2 people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I know I'm climbing an uphill battle here, but I'll do it. When times were tough, Mason Rudolph, starting quarterback, possible future of the franchise, had just been benched. identity
Quack.
crisis.
Quack.
Nobody
Quack.
knew what was going to
Quack.
happen.
Quack. Quack.
Quack.
Quack. Quack.
Devlin Hodges comes in.
Who's
We got
Devlin?
this kid. His name is Devlin Hodges. Duck. He's in the game. Who picked the team up in a moment of need? James Washington. He caught that pass. He got wide open first to make sure that it was easy. And then he looked another professional athlete in the eye and said, "Not today, mother trucker." And he put him on his butt. He had a catch, 50 yards after the catch, a touchdown, and a pancake block all in the same play. So there's a stat for you. James Washington saved a season today.
Was it Power Rangers that had like the little cronies with the button on their chest? And
Yeah.
when you hit it, they were like,
Yeah, the Putty Patrol. Yeah.
That's what happened to BW Webb on that. James Washington hit that button and he was just like,
So
I know
actually,
that he's not going to make the poll, but that was the play of the week.
this
It
is
was
tough.
just awesome.
You know, I think I might actually want to change mine to Nick Chubb again. Because I forgot, huh?
Make your case.
21 attempts, 106 yards, and 1 touchdown rushing. Receiving, 3 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. I don't know. What do you think, Chad?
Look, I would say I thought about this because the order of my nominations were Lamar, who should win, and then my honorable mention was going to be the best Browns player because they had a really nice offensive game where their offense really, really chugged along. And Chubb statistically had a really good game, but I'm still saying this. Jarvis is the heart of this team. Like,
Yeah.
Some of the catches he made, like in tight coverage, like it was like he was just a man on a mission. He was so good. He was so good. The stats are all there. I think Jarvis, for me,
Yeah.
besides James Washington, has earned the right to lose the vote this week to Lamar Jackson, and that's a high honor.
Something that we don't really talk about a lot, or that I guess by mistake don't talk about a lot, but really should, is the ability of both Browns running backs, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, to continue yards after contact, man. Those dudes will just continue to run and push and push and push for extra yards. You know, they'll turn in something that would normally be 2 yards by somebody into 12. And it astounds me every single fucking time. Those guys are just fucking machines. It's crazy. But yeah, I guess I'll stick with Jarvis. I think he stands the best chance to win because people like watching people catch footballs.
yeah, I don't know what it's like to watch running backs that run hard and truck people and get a bunch of yards after contact.
I don't know, man. It's just different. Like,
Kareem
they have
Hunt
like
and
dudes
Nick
like
Chubb are
on their
both really
ankles,
special.
and they're just like pulling them. You know, it's just it's awesome. It's fantastic. Not doing it with one of the best offensive lines in football, where they just have, you know, in the great words of the late great football coach Hugh Jackson, I could have ran through that hole. All right, little bit different. Okay.
Mark Ingram's having a great year, but I think if we all put our dollars and cents on the table, we would take Nick Chubb.
I would, for sure.
So let's all be honest with ourselves, Joey. That starts with you. You got to have your little moment where you realize, but Justin made a fair point about yards after contact. Nick Chubb is very good at it. He's strong.
Speaking of being honest, inevitably in a few weeks when the Browns play the Ravens, I want both of you guys to know that I'm sure there will be a point in the game when I'm frustrated and I call Jarvis Landry soft, and I might compare him to fresh Play-Doh, and I might compare him to wet flowers, but he is in fact not soft, and that's just my emotions talking.
Well, I'll text Jarvis and I'll let him know not to take it personally.
No,
But no, Gary says that he believes Lamar Jackson's going to win. But honorable mention to Ingram simply for the fact that he bowled over Eric Weddle.
He did crack Eric Weddle, one good one.
Oh, man. See, Joey, that's a genuine smile right there. That's what that was. But all right, guys. You guys got anything else you want to add to this shenanigans?
I think we covered it. I think we got 3 great wins and an AFC North team that is well on its way to the first draft pick. So
everybody won
all around.
Yep. So, as far as the next episode, we're doing this Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Interact with us like our good friends Gary, our good friends Johnny Funbuns, and normally we would do this also on Thursday, but Thursday, of course, is Thanksgiving. So we're not going to be doing it on Thursday. I think the tentative plan right now is to do it Friday night instead. And for those of you that are audio listeners, that would mean that we would get it uploaded sometime like Saturday before noon. So still before the games. But so that's the plan for that. It should be a good week, though. Definitely a good week. So Browns, Steelers, Ravens play the 49ers, which I texted Joey earlier this week and said Super Bowl matchup ? Or Super Bowl preview ? But I don't know. And then the Bengals will play somebody. So
I think I told you, let's see how tonight goes because it was yesterday. Yeah. Super Bowl preview. Potentially. Very, very possibly.
Yeah. But anyways, with that, like us, follow us, subscribe to us, 5-star us, rate us. Only the best of ratings. Thumbs up. I don't know. Whatever it is that you do. Vote in the polls. It's never too late to join the Pick'em. Never, ever. See if you can beat Brian or Bones at Pick'em ever. But yeah, it's good stuff. So if you are someone that listens to us on audio or through SoundCloud or something like that, be aware that we do record these live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes because life and because we don't get paid to do this, we just have to move around schedules and stuff like that. But like I would say with 90% certainty, we're going to be doing these Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So catch us live, interact with us. We've had, like I said, last couple of podcasts, we get good interactions and it's a lot more fun to involve you guys in it as well. So come hang out with us. Talk with us about some football. Ask us some questions about what you think about the division, whether you're fans of the division or not. Maybe you're playing us this week, whatever it is. Check us out. Catch us. Hang out with us. Or maybe you just like listening to Chad talk about craft brews every week. Maybe that's why we should just save that to the end then.
I'm just kidding.
Review, Chad, how was it?
It's a great IPA. If you're an IPA, kind of unfiltered, a little hazy, a lot of fruit on the nose, and pretty high alcohol content.
Nice.
It's a winner.
Winner, chicken dinner. Speaking of chicken, but the turkey kind, have happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy some football on Thanksgiving. I'm sure it'll be subpar because it's not AFC North, but that's quite all right.
Driscoll.
It's quite. Oh yeah.
He's going to start for the Lions.
Gary said he enjoys watching Chad swirl and sip the same beer for an hour and a half. only Chad could do that. But have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy your time with your family, alone, whatever it is, however you celebrate. Deep fry your turkey. It's the only way to eat it. If you do it any other way, it's fucking wrong. And we'll see you guys, looks like Friday night. So take it easy, everybody.